Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very pleased to have as my guest David Letourneau, and let me tell you why. America has a vitamin D deficiency crisis. 89.9% of the U.S. population has a deficient level of vitamin D that can lead to the inconvenience of a cold or flu, as well as life-threatening issues that come with cancer, MS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. There is an excellent solution for this problem, and it's neither difficult or excessively expensive to implement. Today, we are going to have David explain how we increase our vitamin D, what is the range that is recommended, what are the benefits of getting our vitamin D in the optimal range. David will educate us in plain language, answering questions in and explanations of the importance of what we should ask in this critical subject. He'll share real life experiences and stories, and will hopefully increase your curiosity as well as your knowledge on how we can get to better health. So we're going to talk about clearing confusion around vitamin D. So please join me in welcoming my guest, David Letourneau.
Thank you,
David,
Vic.
this is going to be a great subject because I think I got into vitamins when I was probably, early 20s, vitamins and supplements, because I was on the go. I was very thin at the time, and I didn't want to have to take a lot of medicine. And so since I grew so fast, I thought, you know what, it could be that at some point I'm going to have a problem with vitamin D. But anyway, so let us just figure out a little bit more about you. I gave a little bit about what we're doing, what we're going to talk about, but I asked two easy questions before we get started with the meat of the matter. And those first two questions are simple. The first is, tell us where you live. Where do you call home?
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, beautiful area. Oh my gosh, it's
My
so pretty
bubble,
there.
Vicky, for 30 years. I love it.
Yeah, it's so pretty. I did some work there, and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful colors and things. All right. The second is, I gave what you're doing today and the things that you're working on, but I'd love for you to share your journey that led you to this point. Always the road is not a straight one in our journey. So share a little bit about the different twists and turns that may have got you into this area, and what really was that moment, that pivotal moment that said, we really need to address this now.
Wow, that's a nice question. Quick Cliff's Notes version of where I've come from. I actually grew up in Western Canada, farming.
Oh,
My dad was in business, and besides farming. And so I just grew up. I knew I wasn't going to be a farmer. That's hard work. For those of you that are farmers out there, good for you. Please keep it up. But I knew it wasn't going to be for me, but business was. And so I went and got a business degree when I graduated high school, got a business degree, out of college, and worked hard at a job that paid more than I was worth, I think, at the time. Saved all my money and got into business when I was in my early 20s. And
Wow.
so it's been a remarkable journey then. I'd call myself a serial entrepreneur. I lost track of how many businesses I've started and sold and built. It's a lot. I think we had 17 restaurants at some point. That was my
Wow.
first kind of career, was in the restaurant and fast food business. And then after that, got into real estate and apartment condo development, condo conversion. That was here in the Phoenix,
Mm.
Southern California. We did a lot in that regard. We did about 10,000 units of apartments in
Wow.
just a few years. And then continued to land development and some land speculation, that type of thing. And then started building some companies in different areas, technically oriented, some of them, and manufacturing and so on. So it to bring it now to the, your last question, which was, what was the aha
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah, because it doesn't connect the dots to that at all.
These dots are kind of all over the map, and I get
Yeah.
that. But, it's funny, if you have the skill set to run a large restaurant operation really well, which I had the good fortune of having some great mentors in that field. I really do believe you can run almost any business, because the
Yeah.
number of moving parts in that business are incredible. There's so many details to take care of every single day,
Yeah,
checklists
there
that happen
are.
every single day, that if you take that skill set forward into virtually any other business and just change you know, what the items on the to-do list are every day,
Right.
I think you'd be successful, because if you're really successful in restaurants, you've done a good job of taking care of those to-dos every day. And I respect people that can do that. It's remarkably difficult in a lot of ways, but once you nail it down. I always said it's more of a science than an art. When somebody says,
Hmm.
"Hey, I'm a good cook, I'm going to open a restaurant," I go, "Oh man, that doesn't sound good to me," because
Yeah,
you got to take for granted that it's good food, but then you've got hundreds of other details that have to be taken care of.
that's right.
So, so uh, a uh, a partner that I had met along the way, another fellow, we decided we could do some things together, because we're quite dovetailed in our skill set, background,
Hmm.
experience. His name's Scott Hansberry, great guy. Started with IBM and really got a firm handle on technical. He's worked with some big companies, that type of thing, where I've worked more on the entrepreneurial side, smaller companies that we built up to be fairly big, but
Right.
weren't giant public companies, that type of thing. In any case, we found a technology, a business that we acquired, and it's LED technology, and with
Hmm.
that technology we can create any type of light on the light spectrum, from
Ah,
visible light to invisible light,
ah,
and
there's the vitamin D connection.
that's the vitamin D connection, because we had the good fortune of meeting some just miracle worker doctors out of LSU,
Hmm.
doing a clinical trial, peer reviewed at Baylor. It was early days of COVID. They were treating people in the ICU, critically ill with COVID. They were treating them with UVB light. And I'll come into exactly what UVB light is in a minute, but the results they achieved were a 60% reduction in mortality. So
Wow.
if you think about that for a moment, that's why I say miracle worker doctors, just amazing,
Hmm.
that we're doing some terrific things. And as we discussed it with them, as we got to know them a little bit, their comment was, well, there's people walking around New Orleans today that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for that UVB light. And so we went further into that, really started doing the research and said, this looks fantastic. This is what a great reason to get up in the morning, is
Hmm.
think that you can, help people to that
Right.
level. That's kind of
Yeah.
beyond even a big dream. The more we looked at it, the more we realized there was really two paths associated with this. And they were very much on the medical path, saying, we're curing people from COVID. We're very confident, and we know that we got to do a much bigger clinical trial to to do a clinical trial on MS as an example. They said, we already know what we can do with that. We're confident we can halt the progression, maybe cure it, put it into remission. And then a lot of the other really big problematic kind of diseases. And so we said, okay, that sounds fantastic. We checked it out. And of course, it's a parallel path to the other side of it, which is the wellness kind of side of it. And the challenge on the medical side is, long timelines and really big money to go through the FDA and all of that. So that's something that is on our agenda for the long run. The short run, though, we realized we could be helping people today if we can develop the right device here, and we could help them be healthier today without making claims like curing this and helping with that and all that. And the claim we can make, of course, is that we produce vitamin D, which is very clear. There's tens of thousands of research studies have been done to say that, UVB light creates vitamin D in our skin. When the sun hits our skin, the skin immediately goes to work and says, okay, we want some vitamin D, sends the precursors to the liver and then on to the kidneys and ultimately to the cells. And we've got 37 trillion cells waiting for that vitamin D in our body. That's how many cells we have in our body. Almost all of them have a receptor for vitamin D. So that's what brought us here. And we just thought, pretty cool if we could do this on a basis that would work for people and would be ultimately affordable for people. And so that's what we developed over the last 3 years, a few $1 million, and voila, we have conquered the issue. We've met several other groups that have tried to conquer that issue, and they all said the same thing. Good for you, because we didn't get it done. So we're quite proud of what we've done. It's a precision engineered device that I'll describe in a little more detail in a minute.
And go ahead and share the name of your company.
Enyrgy, ENYRGY. And just changed one letter. There's the second E to Y so that we could get that URL. So we have the URL enyrgy.com, ENYGY.com.
So I know there are a lot of people that the wintertime is a tough time, Calgary and I'm from Pittsburgh. And so you have a long time of not such bright sunshine. And so how does this technology help them? What does it look like? Is it just a lamp? What does the device look like?
Astute question, and you're 100% right. The device itself is, and people can see it on the website when they go there, but to describe it, it's let's call it a housing that's 10.5 inches wide and 9 inches tall and about 10 inches deep. So it's not particularly big, and it's got an LED light card in there that's emitting UVB light at a precise range on the light spectrum, and with the power that's precisely calibrated. One of the first things we did when we decided that this is something we want to take on was we recruited some of the best vitamin D researchers and doctors in the world to help us figure out exactly how we as the business people can work with the scientists, can work with the engineers to make this all work. And so we're very precise with that. And we treat people on their lower torso onto bare skin, so kind of from the breast line to the waistline, and then turn around and do their back. And people always say, well, is that because there's so many organs in that area? And you go, no, not at all. It's actually it doesn't go deep. The vitamin D is created when the UVB hits your skin. And so the difference that we have here that's so important is that natural sunshine is 95% UVA, which is a long wave that goes deep into your skin. And that's what gets the dermatologist pretty excited in a negative way about going too long, burning too often, that type of thing. Sunshine's amazing for you, so go get it and get it without sunscreen, but only, don't burn. That's the key. It's 5% UVB, and it's the 5% UVB that's delivering the vitamin D. So we kind of looked at that and said, gee, I think we have an idea. So we created this device producing 95% UVB and 5%
Wow.
UVA. So we still get the goodness of UVA. There is some good in UVA. It's just
Hmm.
it's too
Too
much.
much is not good.
So what that leads to then is in a 2 to 4 minute treatment, it's a minute to 2 minutes front, a minute to 2 minutes back. This is quick. And but in that 2 to 4 minute total treatment, we know that we're delivering the equivalent of 2 to 4 hours of healthy sunshine without the bad part.
Wow. And I think it's really interesting that you have it at the breast to the waist and the back, because I know that some of the lights that they have are just they hit your face.
Mhm.
And the brightness of it, for some of the people, it's too bright, and so they don't use it. So, here's a tool, but it's causing me an aggravation, so I'm not going to use it. So I think it's really interesting and probably very helpful that it's short and
Yeah.
it's in a lower area, so your eyes are not perhaps bothered by it.
Yes, you don't want to get UVB in your eyes. And you go out and look at the sun, that's not a good thing to
Yeah,
do. And
right, right.
good thing to do with a UVB lamp either. There are other UVB products out there that have been delivering UVB for years, and they're pretty much all bulbs. And we have an
Hmm.
LED, which is very precise, and
Yeah.
that's the advantage of an LED. We were able to engineer it to deliver that really narrow band. A bare bulb, the challenge with it is, I call it indiscriminate, and I don't really mean that in a negative way. I just mean in a practical way. Like you say, it's going to be on your face because it's just there. It's a bulb. So you should, for sure, if you have one of those or ever get one, always wear eye protection
Yeah.
when you're around it. But the other part of it that's challenging is this: light, whether it be UV or any other light, dissipates exponentially as you get distance from it. And so the dosage that we're delivering, we want to deliver it precisely. And that's why I
Hmm.
say when you take your treatment, you press right up against this housing, and then we know
Yeah.
precisely that you're how many inches
Your
you are.
skin has got it.
And so you're going to get the absolute maximum treatment and dosage without too much. If you back away a little bit, it it's going to shut off because number one, we don't want you to look at it with your eyes, but the other part is we don't want you to think you're getting vitamin D if you're not, because if you move even a couple of inches away, the power drops so quickly that it's not as effective. And so that's the
Hmm.
challenge with some of the other devices on the market as
Yeah.
well. It's not a precise distance, which is it's a challenge. You might still be able to get it done, but you better really know what you're doing and be careful with it for the obvious reasons.
Yeah. So people out there are probably saying, well, David, how do I know if I need more vitamin D? What health concerns might they have, or maybe they feel wonderful, but as I said, in those months of winter, in California they call it the gray days or something like that. How do they know if they should really take this as a treatment?
That a great question, because the first thing that we absolutely urge everyone to do is go get your D tested. And you can do that through your doctor, through your blood draw. You can also do it through online ordering of a do it at home test. Now, I want to make mention there is two kinds of tests you can order for do it at home. One is you get it, you just poke your finger, drip a little bit of blood onto a what they call a blood
Mhm.
spot card, dry it, mail it in, and they'll email you back your results in a few days or maybe a week. There is another one that's just come out that I don't want to say I don't recommend it. I just don't think it's smart. And that is that it just tells you that you're low, you're adequate, or you're high.
Oh,
Well, the problem is that they call low below 30, they call adequate, and this is nanograms per milliliter. This is how we measure vitamin D. And they suggest that adequate is 30 to 100 which is a ridiculously big range, and that you're high if you're over 100. And quite frankly, we disagree that that's a concern. But the important part is get an accurate number, because you're going to pay for one of those that are very broad based. You're going to pay probably 20, $30. You'll pay about 35 to $50 for one that's really accurate, but that's the one that's going to give you what you want. I want you to know if you're at 22 or at 47 or you're at 85. You want to know that. And I can tell you right now, there's probably nobody on this call that's at 85. 60 to 100 is where we recommend. And the reason for that is this. When you're in 25 to 30 nanograms per milliliter range, you're high enough to have decent calcification of your bones. Your skeletal structure should be pretty healthy at that point. And so it's not a worry for osteoporosis, osteomalacia, the problem, kids, rickets, which we don't see too much of anymore, but it's not completely unknown. But at 30, you're not getting all the extra benefits. And the extra benefits are huge. And that is getting into the kind of things that are going to give you long-term health. And so to back up to that discussion about the 37 trillion cells in your body that almost all have receptors for vitamin D. If you think about it this way, think for a moment of all these cells, trillions of them in your body, and your vitamin D is low. And I can tell you that, as you mentioned, the statistic, 89.9% of people are low. Now, that definition of low is below 30. In other words, when you get to what we think is the right definition, where you get all the extra benefits above 60, 70, then almost everyone is low. We've seen 55 vitamin D tests come through our office here in the last week or 10 days, couple of weeks. And you know how many were in range? When you say range is 60 to 100?
One. Oh, two.
Two.
Yeah. And so I'm 66 and so I have blood work done, whenever I go for my annual physical. Thankfully, I don't have anything but heart stuff to deal with. So, but the vitamin D comes up, especially like I'm 5'9", and my mom has osteoporosis and things like that. So they're always concerned, but it seems like they just as a just norm say, oh, you need to add D3, you need to just go ahead and you need vitamin D. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But is the blood test that they have at the doctor's office better, the same as the one that you recommend?
It should be good. It's going to be done in a lab. So that I would expect that to be any, that's
Whatever.
a qualified lab should produce a good result. Now, keep in mind, all labs vary. The best will vary from the best. Like, they just have different equipment, different procedures. So once you're testing this, and we recommend to people, test your D every quarter, every 3 months, to keep it up there so you're in the right range all the time. And we'll get into why that's important, but it's just important to go to the same lab every time, or use the same blood spot test every time. If you're ordering it online, order the same one every time. If you're using ours, which we've just acquired these, we now have tests. We don't sell them yet, but it's an instant test. We can tell people their vitamin D reading in 15 minutes now. But the key is, it wouldn't matter whose test you're using. It's going to vary with all the other ones. Hopefully not more than 10% or so, but it's still it's a variance.
So that leads me to the question, say I got your device and I'm using it. How often should I use it? And if I'm using it at a recommended regular regimen, do I still need to quarterly test things just to make sure that everything's cool? Or what are your thoughts?
We think you should continue the testing quarterly so that your level, where you're at. Every person is different. So we cannot, we've all got different chemistry, we've all got a different skin type. And so the first thing, this device is driven by an app on your phone. And everybody's got a different amount of time and energy that they're going to get in their treatment. And so first thing that happens is you download that app and you're going to do a skin type quiz. And so that'll just walk you through, ask you a bunch of questions. What's your natural hair color? What are your eye color? All that kind of stuff. You know, talk about tanning, skin tone. And it's going to determine your skin type. And that is standard used around the world. So your skin type will be between 1 and 6. 1 being really, really fair, virtually albino. And by the way, you know, somebody that's that fair that literally has no pigmentation, this device isn't for them. So it's going to be more of a skin type 2 to 6. 2 being fair. You're pretty fair. You might be a 2. You could be a low 3. I'm a 3. African American would be probably 5 or 6. And that depends on then, again, this is now when we got into the medical side of it, putting the protocols together of how long people are treated. And so that'll determine, they're usually going to start at a 1 minute. If you're really dark, you probably start at 1.5 to 2 minutes. But the longest treatment is 2 minutes front, 2 minutes back. And so as far as how often, how many times, we recommend 2 or 3 times a week, kind of as a base. If you really tested low on your baseline when you first find out where you're at, almost everybody on the call is going to be low. It's just that's reality. So don't sweat it if you are, but get on it and get it taken care of. So if you have a device at home, just go treat yourself all the time, every day. 5 days a week.
It can't hurt, right?
No, it's only going to. And the research is very clear. The body's very, very smart. If your D is already pretty up, it's not going to create as much. So you can't overdo it with the light, is the bottom line. So
okay.
But you're going to keep your tank topped up if you're there all the time. Now, there's a bunch of pieces to this now, because we often get asked, let's stay on the sunshine side of it for a minute. We often get asked, why would I spend money when I could just go out in the sun? And the answer is, well, if you can discipline yourself enough and you live in the right location and you can make this work, good on you. The sun will be fine for you. That's all you need. We bring the sun indoors, you know, and as I said, we also make it a little safer because we're 95% UVB instead of 5% UVB and 5% UVA instead of 95% UVA. So it's safer and it's quicker. It's very convenient to only have to worry 2 to 4 minutes a day to take care of all of this. And you can still enjoy the sun here and there. But to get UVB from sunshine is only happening midday, and it's based on the angle of the sun. So, for instance, where I live, it's right now, we're in November here as we record this, and our window, even in Scottsdale, Arizona, is about 2.5 to 3 hours a day, midday. It's really tight window. Now it'll get longer in the summer. Here's what's really important. Right now, anybody that lives north of a line that runs from Atlanta to Las Vegas, the 35th parallel, is getting 0. Sorry, no time of day that works. And so you're not getting any vitamin D from the sun. Now that's very clearly why colds and flu season is when it is.
In this time,
Not in July, right?
Yep.
So
everybody has that cold, and we always attribute it to the dampness or change in the temperatures and things, but
it's just your vitamin D.
It's vitamin D.
It's going to be low in the summer as well. It's just not as low because you're getting sun, you know.
And so what if the person says, but David, I take vitamin D supplements. I make sure that the food that I eat has some vitamin D in it. Am I getting what I need?
Maybe, probably not, but maybe. Supplements, nothing bad to say about supplements. It's just that, again, the statistics and the research give you some reasons that you may not have as high a vitamin D as you'd like. 1/4, 25% of people don't assimilate, absorb, or make use of oral vitamin D. That's just research. So happen to be one of the unlucky ones that doesn't have the choice of going to get supplements. So if those of you out there that are trying to get your D up and you've been testing it and it's not moving up and you're taking more and more and more, you're one of the unlucky ones it's a big cohort. We had a fellow just recently that we happened to meet. He had not been able to get his to move, and he's quite sophisticated. He's actually in the lighting business, not in our space, but he knows a lot about it scientifically. And he said, I gave up because I knew I wasn't absorbing it. And he said, I tried to get in the sun more, but that wasn't working either because I don't have time. I can't make it work. And so he was excited to see our product. So he got one for his home, one for his office. He really did it. And he treated himself 50 times in the first 10 weeks. So in 70 days, he treated himself 50 times. And he moved his level from 37 nanograms per milliliter, which is low, to 78. Totally.
Awesome.
He was very excited. He's given us referral after referral, and he's very excited about being able to do that. It was a goal of his for years, he said, and he just couldn't figure out how to do it. And so the other part is food, and we need to address that. Yes, there's vitamin D in food, and it'll say right on your milk carton that there's vitamin D added, and but being honest, it's this much, and it's that much in your food generally. Line caught wild fish, the oilier toward like the salmon and that type of thing is the best. A lot of the kind of little fish that we wouldn't even, most of us don't care to eat are pretty good in vitamin A or vitamin D, I mean, and then you can get into things like mushrooms and red meat, which a lot of you don't want to hear, but it's good for vitamin D. But the most, again, there's research on this, the most you could get would be if you did everything right, but ate the right amount, because of course it's also the amount, you might get as high as 10 to 20% of what you need in terms of D. So by all means, eat healthy and eat the D-oriented foods, but it's just going to help. It's not going to conquer and give you the result you need.
And it's not going to be a problem doing the light and those things because, as you said, your body knows when it has enough, right?
We need so much D that we never see anybody that's too high.
Nobody's too high.
I asked Dr. Hollis out of the Medical University of South Carolina, that's one of our medical advisors. I asked him, he's a vitamin D researcher. I've heard him called the godfather of vitamin D. He's been researching vitamin D for 46 years. There isn't any who doesn't know about vitamin D, I don't think. Although I guess he'd say, well, that's what I'm looking for, is what I haven't learned yet. In any case, I asked him, I said, how many times have you seen vitamin D toxicity in this 46 years of studying vitamin D? And the answer was never.
Yeah.
Hasn't seen it. So not worrisome. We should loop back for just a minute on oral vitamin D, just to cover that off completely. If you are one of the lucky ones that does absorb it, you're still falling short. So just to be clear, that is, you'll be getting some vitamin D, but the big pharma that create all these things for us have tried many, many times. I think the number that I saw most recently was 47 trials through the FDA to try and prove that vitamin D orally would increase your immune system, your immunity. Tens of millions of dollars. They all failed. So you might get a little bump in your immunity, but it's not increasing it to the level that you can increase it with natural vitamin D production, which is made by you and your skin from light. And that we were designed for that. As you know, civilization is near the equator, and we were designed to be getting our vitamin D from light. And so what we're doing here is just, we have an all natural way to get your vitamin D. And
sounds awesome.
That's what we're proud of. The other thing is, we want this to be long-term. So find out your D today, please. Whether you do anything with us or not, it's okay with me. Just make sure that you know your vitamin D and then figure out how to get it up and get it into that range so that you have all these long-term benefits. And my analogy is this. Needless to say, as you know, it's pretty hot here in Arizona in the summertime. So I have a place that's on the water north of here that I escaped for about 4 months and worked virtually. But I'm a water skier, and I
Oh,
happen to
yeah,
be
me
lake
too.
that's just flat. Oh, are you?
Yeah.
It's okay. So you're with me on this. What do you want? Flat water, right?
Yes, you do.
They're
We
so
call it
glass.
glass.
Glass, exactly. We want to ski glass. And so we happen to be really fortunate. The lake we're on is big. It's 25 miles long, and yet it's
Wow.
glass most of the time. It's amazing.
Oh,
And so if I take you back to June of 2009, I was in the market for a new water ski boat. And of course, I've been water skiing for a long time, so I know
yeah,
exactly what I want. I want one that doesn't create a wake. Let's keep the glass, right? And
right.
so I bought the boat brand new at that time, and get it in the water. And everybody knows because they were told with no uncertain terms, this boat's getting tarped every night. And there is a point to this story, and that is this: there are other there are other neighbors around me that don't tarp their boat, which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
And you can go a day, a week, you could probably go a whole season without tarping it. You wouldn't really notice. If you go 5 years, 10 years without tarping it, I
That's
guarantee it, you're going to be
sun
wanting to buy
damage.
a new boat,
Mm,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I liken that to making sure that your vitamin D and all the other things we should be doing health wise that we keep up with every day. We can cheat here and there. We can skip a day. We can skip a week. We might be able to get away with skipping a month or two. Uh, but if we try to skip a year or two or three, or if we let this go for another 5, it's going to show up. And
Yeah.
so what I like to say is tarp your boat. Tarp on your boat, folks. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is that in many years later, this is a lifetime. We want to have lifetime good health. Statistics are so clear. We have in the US, we have 10 years. The average person has 10 years of ill health before they die.
Mm.
And you think, wow. I know in my own case, my mom was about 7 years before she passed away. My dad was about 13. Average the two, it was 10. So between them, they were right exact average.
Mm.
I don't know about you. I would prefer to go the way my grandfather did. He was a farmer. He was out checking the fields in the spring, and it was muddy, and he got stuck with his pickup checking the fields, and he went to walk back. He was 88 years old, still farming. And he got stuck in the pickup, is walking back to the farm, and it was really muddy, and like I say, he was kind of sinking in too, and obviously hard going, and he had a big heart attack and died right there. He had never
Mm.
been in the hospital a day. And you
Wow.
think, okay, pick me. That's how I want to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The long drawn out is no
I,
fun.
I I think is it Peter Attia that says, the older you are, the healthier you've been, or something like.
Yeah. Well, there were statistics are coming out that people are going to live to 110, 120. And I'm thinking, as long as I can stay with a quality of life that is a good quality of life, then I do want to live that long
Yeah,
and see all the changes. But if I'm going to be 100 plus and stuck in a bed or achy, you know, that's not for me.
exactly. We had a family friend that just passed away last year at 104.
Wow.
He had about 2 or 3 or 4 days of not feeling great before she passed away. I'm talking robust health.
Yeah. We
When
had
she
a doctor here in
90,
Atlanta that was practicing till she was 103. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember being at a party one time where she was there, and I saw her across the room. She was in her 90s, I think mid 90s, and she was jiving, like, spinning around,
yes.
kicking her feet. No, it's amazing. And you just think, good for you. Just
Yeah.
that's what we want.
That's
So
what we want.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
for
paying
sure.
attention to those details. It's understanding what we need to do. We understand very clearly what we need to do with vitamin D, and a lot of the experts do tell us that vitamin D is the most important compound in your body,
Yeah.
and it can be done. But to get it where you want it to be, depending on who you are, you might need to, check out a few different ways of doing it. And one of them that's all natural is, of course, with our device.
Awesome. All right. I'm sure that people are out there like, well, Vicki, just please share his slide with his contact information so that we can get in touch with David. So yes, I'm going to do that now. You should have been taking notes all along if you're just listening, but you can get this information on my YouTube channel, Vicki Noethling. Please subscribe, as well as in the show notes on my findyourleadershipconfidence.com.
Yeah, and Vicki too, you'll be able to post a link where people can go get a deal on this. This is
Perfect.
A roughly $3,400 device, and people are buying, things every day for their health that are more than that. I ride a mountain bike, and mine costs me a lot more than that, to try and stay healthy on that. But we also have a code. The link is best because it'll take them there real quick and do it all for them. But if they somehow don't have that link, they can use the code that's specific to you. And thank you for asking for a discount for people. We want it. We're doing this because we want to help people. And that code that's specific to you asking is deal 25, capital D, lowercase EAL, and the numbers 25. Now that 25 is only going to be good for a couple of weeks here when this first comes out, and then it'll be 20 after that, 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want the website, again, as he explained to you, it's www.enyrgy.com, but Enyrgy is ENYRGY. So that second E is a Y. So enyrgy.com. Check that out. And LinkedIn, you can just search his name, and that's David. The spelling of the last name is Letourneau. So just search his name, David Letourneau. And then on Instagram, it's Enyrgy Light Therapy. Enyrgy spelled as the company. So remember that second E is a Y. So ENYRGY Light Therapy, all smashed one word together, lowercase. All right. Well, David, it's been just wonderful chatting with you. You shared a lot of great information. And I'm sure there are some people, especially some young people, that think they're bulletproof and they don't need any of this. And so I think it's good for everyone to understand this. And you shared very good points and information. And I hope that people do go to enyrgy.com to learn more and hopefully pick up your device.
Obviously I'm biased, but I know that the feedback we get from people that do that is within just a very short period of time, we get a lot of people say, I'm sleeping better already, or I have more energy. I had an 82-year-old man the other day that phoned, and he had just had his device a fairly short period of time. And he said, I'm riding my bike again. I got my balance back. Just a variety of things, including then a little later, I haven't had a cold or the flu for forever,
Yeah.
So,
that's an important thing. I know that we're finished, but there's one question that may come up, and that is, insurance companies aren't covering this yet, right?
unfortunately not.
Unfortunately not. All the good things that I share with people, it's like, no, the insurance doesn't cover it. But as he said, all the things that you do, the exercise equipment, the bikes, all those things that you spend money on to help your health, this is just another thing. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.